Hi guys, and welcome back to another Premier League video. We're nearing the halfway mark now, coming up to round 17 here, but quick recap on round 16. I got no scores correct, there were a few where I was close, obviously one game was postponed, but I got nothing correct. Hope to get something correct here, and I think I will. Let's get into my predictions. And starting off with a game that's already been postponed, Brentford versus Man United. Now, Man United have had some issues with COVID. It was Spurs, they had a lot of issues. They've had a few games postponed recently. Now it looks like it's Man United, and they can't play in this game against Brentford because of COVID issues, meaning it's been postponed. However, I'm still going to give my prediction, even though I don't know when it's going to be played, because it technically does belong to this round of fixtures. So Brentford, they're okay. They won their last game 2-1 against Watford. A penalty in the last minute won it. And they drew their game before that 2-2 against Leeds. They obviously started very well. It slowed down a bit. But Ivan Toney's back now. He has been missing for a few games as he had COVID. I think they'll pick up form a bit now. It's a shame that this fixture maybe isn't now because Rangnick's still settling in. Maybe this would be a time to strike against Man United, but they're not going to get to play it, and I don't know when this is going to be played now. Now, Man United, they've won 3 in a row in the league, and Rangnick has been in charge for 2 of those games, and they've both been 1-0 victories. So he keeps them very low scoring, they defend well, they press, and, well, they've won both games, but against bigger teams, they will need to start putting more chances away because I can't see them keeping the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, even like a West Ham or an Arsenal or a Leicester at the moment. I couldn't see them stopping those teams scoring goals. So yeah, they might need to start scoring a few more in their games, but for now, against the teams they've played, they've done well. For this, I'm just going to predict that because I think this game will be played quite a few weeks into the future, maybe a month away, Rangnick will have developed the team more. They'll be playing how they want him to, how he wants them to, and they'll be able to win it. So I'm going to go Man United to win 2-1. Now on to a game that, as far as I'm aware, is being played. It's Norwich versus Villa. Now Norwich, they've lost 2 in a row. Dean Smith, he had a decent start, but now they've lost their last 2 games. I think this game is going to really push Norwich all the way because Dean Smith is going to want to get one back on his old club. He was only managing there like a month ago, so he'd love to get one over on them. I don't think they'll be able to win this because Villa, they've started well under Gerrard. They've won 3 of their 5 matches, and the 2 that they've lost have been 2-1 against Man City and 1-0 against Liverpool. So only losing by a 1-goal margin to those teams shows that they were in those games at least. They played well, and I think that it's time for Gerrard's first draw. Now, I know that might sound silly as Norwich aren't great, but the Dean Smith factor, I think, is really going to come into it. And I just think Norwich will nick something here. So I'm going to go 1-1. Man City versus Leeds now. And Man City, they've won 6 league games in a row. They're absolutely flying. Leeds, they lost their last one. It was 3-2 to Chelsea. A last-minute penalty for Chelsea. Jorginho scored 2 penalties in that game. And there were quite a lot of penalties last weekend. I know Liverpool had one, Man City had one, and they were the goals in those games. In the Chelsea-Leeds game, there were 3. Man United, they won 1-0, and Ronaldo scored that. So yeah, a lot of penalties, which is we're not used to. There haven't been that many penalties this season in general, but it was a penalty weekend, really. Leeds, as I said, they lost 3-2 to Chelsea. They were unlucky, but they're very patchy in form. The one man that does stand out for them, obviously, Rafinha. he is levels above Leeds, really, and he's pulling them through. He tends to get a goal involvement every game. So I think he will be involved in a goal in this one. I think he'll either score or assist against Man City. Probably score. But I think Man City just have too much quality. And I'm going to go Man City to win 3-1. Brighton versus Wolves next. Brighton, their last game was postponed. It was against Spurs. And I don't know if Spurs' COVID issues are sorted now, but that one was postponed. So Brighton is the same as last time. They've drawn 3 in a row, and they've drawn a lot of games recently. That's all you really need to know about Brighton. They like to draw. Now, Wolves, they are... It's strange because they've lost 2 of their last 5 games. So their last 2 they've lost, both 1-0 to Liverpool and to Man City. Which, again, 1 goal margin is to lose to those teams isn't bad. They've played decent. They played well against Liverpool anyway, and they just were unlucky with a last-minute goal. But they're very good defensively. In their last 5 games, they've only conceded 2 goals, and it was 1 against Liverpool and 1 against Man City. But their issue is scoring. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 5 games, which means 2 of those games were 0-0 draws, and 1 of them was a 1-0 win. They need to start finding the back of the net to give them any chance of pushing up towards the European spaces, because they're so good defensively that if they were good at the other end of the pitch, they'd probably be one of my favourites to get into the Europa League / Europa Conference spots. They are sort of around that level, and while defensively, you'd put them in the top 4 at the moment on form, but it's just attacking, they can't score. So for this, I'm going to go for them to get Brighton's favourite result, a 1-1 draw. Burnley versus Watford next. A big, big battle at the bottom. Now Burnley, they've drawn 4 of their last 5 games, so they're picking up roughly a point a game, but that they're not getting any wins. That's their issue. Watford, they've lost 4 in a row, so they're really struggling at the moment, which is why what I'm about to say might be surprising considering they've lost 4 in a row. Emmanuel Dennis is doing brilliantly for them. He, as far as I'm aware, he's second only to Mo Salah on goal involvement in the league this season, which is pretty incredible considering he's right at the bottom of the league, just above the relegation zone. If Watford lose this, Burnley leapfrog them and Watford are in the relegation zone. But I'm going to go for Watford to prevail because they're playing a team near the bottom of the league. And I can just see them being able to get one over on them because they have the attacking quality. Now Burnley, they did defend very well in their last game, 0-0 against West Ham. But I just think Watford, there's something about their attack. I'll probably overrate their attack, to be honest, because I've went for a few Watford results recently that haven't came to fruition. However, I'm going to do it again. Watford to win 2-1. Crystal Palace versus Southampton next. And Palace, they won 3-1 against Everton thanks to 2 goals from Conor Gallagher, including a brilliant last-minute goal. And that came after 3 losses in a row. Southampton, they haven't won in 5, and their last game was a 3-0 loss to Arsenal. However, they did start that game quite well. They just couldn't score, and then Arsenal just got the better of them. They just had that clinicalness up front. Now for this, it's difficult. Palace are another team that I feel like I maybe overrate, and I feel like they can get something, and then they tend to draw a lot of their games. Southampton also tend to draw quite a few games, but I think I'm just going to edge Palace on this. Again, as I said, I do tend to overrate them, but they've got some good players in there, And I think they have enough to beat this Southampton side. It's just whether they can get the goals too, because their issues seem to be in attack, not scoring enough goals, creating plenty of chances. But I think they will this time. So I'm going to go Palace to win 2-1. Arsenal versus West Ham next. And I'm really looking forward to this game. And to be honest, my opinion has changed on it a lot. I can't really make my mind up. And I keep switching between the two. But Arsenal, they beat Southampton 3-0 in their last game. It was after 2 losses in a row. And they seem to get, obviously, their goal scoring back. And they played well in that game. West Ham, they drew 0-0 with Burnley. May have lost a bit of an attacking edge when it comes to playing the smaller teams. But when they play the bigger teams, like what happened the fixture before Burnley, they beat Chelsea 3-2. Also flashes back to them beating Liverpool 3-2 in the season as well. So they like to play against the bigger teams that like the ball. I'm not putting Arsenal necessarily in the category of Liverpool and Chelsea. Obviously, those two teams are a lot further in their development stage, and Arsenal are just they've got quite a few young players coming through, and they're just starting to build something that I think in a few years, they'll probably be getting Champions League spots. That's my thinking on it anyway. But I don't know, it's so tight to call because West Ham, they are good against those sides that like the ball. They're very good on the counter. Arsenal, they've got a lot of young players that are really exciting to watch. And I've just ended up sitting down the middle, but I think there'll be quite a few goals. So I've went for a 2-2 draw. On to another game I'm really looking forward to, but I may have called drastically wrong here. Leicester versus Spurs. Now I say I may have drastically called it wrong, but it's just my head saying this is going to happen. And it could be a bit of a shock, maybe. But Leicester, they beat Newcastle 4-0 in their last game. James Maddison is in very good form. Patson Daka's been playing well too. And Youri Tielemans was back in the lineup. And it showed. He was very good. Scored 2 goals. And he is a pivotal part of this Leicester team. Now Spurs, they haven't lost in the league under Conte yet. Obviously they've had like 2 games postponed in the league. But out of the 4 he's managed, they drew 1 and then they've won the last 3. Now, in those 3, they've scored 7, conceded 1, so they're very dominant in them. But I've just got this feeling that Leicester, their season is going to start properly now, and they're going to start pushing up the table. With Tielemans back especially. Vardy hasn't played the last few games, they've been playing Daka, and it's been working. Daka has impressed me when he's played. So I just think Leicester, they're going to start coming good now. And this game, they're just going to shock Spurs, get a win, and sort of show everyone that, you know, they're not down and out yet. They've got 5th last 2 seasons in a row. They're not ready to give that up. And I think they're going to win this 3-2. On to Chelsea versus Everton. And Chelsea, they beat Leeds 3-2 after losing to West Ham 3-2. So, a lot of goals in their last few games. 10 goals in 2 games. Not something we associate with Chelsea, especially not conceding 5 in 2. But they ended up getting that win against Leeds. Came in the last minute. But obviously, they needed it to keep up in the title race. And they're right there, right behind Man City and Liverpool. Now, Everton, they obviously beat Arsenal 2-1. You thought they'd turned a corner. Maybe they could get something out of the next game against Palace. But they didn't really do anything. They lost 3-1 to Palace. And it's right back to where they were. I think it must have been a bit of a blip against Arsenal. Arsenal just not taking chances. Everton, all their creativeness seemed to come in that one game. But I think Chelsea win here comfortably and back to keeping clean sheets. Chelsea 2-0. And finally, it's Liverpool taking on Newcastle. And Liverpool, they've won 5 league games in a row, but their last 2 have both been 1-0s. They were scoring a lot of goals. The goals may be drying up a bit now. I think this is the game to test if the goals are drying up. Because they're playing a Newcastle side that finally got their first win against Burnley. It was a 1-0. You'd think they'd try and, well, obviously they'd try, but you'd think they might build maybe a little bit of momentum. But then they go and get hammered 4-0 by Leicester. This Newcastle side need January desperately because they're awful. And I don't know, they're going to need some good signings in January because they might be the richest club in the world, but they might end up being the richest club in the Championship if they're not careful. For this, Liverpool, as I said, the goals have been drying up, but this is the test now. I think it could be quite high scoring. I'm going to go for Liverpool to win 3-0. However, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 5, maybe more, because this Liverpool side on their day can absolutely destroy a team that are in the sort of form of Newcastle. So yeah, I'm going to go Liverpool to win 3-0. So those are my predictions for these Premier League midweek fixtures. There's a few Premier League midweek fixtures coming up, which we obviously haven't been used to this season, but around Christmas, all the fixtures get cramped up, and there's some really good fixtures, and it sort of shows you, can these teams sort of have the fitness to keep going, keep performing, and be consistent? There's a few fixtures here, Arsenal v West Ham and Leicester v Spurs, that are very tight and I think affect the top end of the table. Obviously Leicester aren't really near the top at the moment, but I think they're going to go on a bit of a run now and push towards there. Please let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, and put your predictions down in the comments too. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League content.